So let's start with question number 5. Can we see a simple example of how we can do CRUD operations using LINQ to SQL? For people who are new to the CRUD vocabulary, CRUD stands for create, read, update and delete. So in this session, we will take up a simple customer table which has 3 fields: customer ID, customer name and customer code. And we'll create a simple ASPX page which will use LINQ to SQL to do insert, search, modify and delete. So in this question, we will try to see that how we can use the LINQ to SQL system to create add, update, modify, delete screen. LINQ commit happens in 2 phases. First, that is in memory inside the LINQ objects, and the second is on the actual physical SQL Server database. Now, in order to do in-memory commits in the LINQ objects, you can call the on-submit commands. So, for example, if you want to do a delete in memory, then you can use the delete on submit method of data context. If you want to add a new object, you can use the insert on submit method of the data context. And finally, when everything is done, you can call up the submit changes method of data context class to make a final commit. So this is a very important theory which we need to remember, that LINQ doesn't commit in one shot, but it goes with 2 phases. First, it does an update or a delete or a modify in memory inside the LINQ object, and then finally when everything is done, it makes a final commit using the submit changes method of data context. Now, using this theory, we will see that how actually the code looks like. So here's my customer table which has 3 fields: customer ID, customer code and customer name. So as a first step, we need to first create the LINQ entity class. So here's my LINQ entity class called as CLS customer entity, which is mapped using the table attribute with the customer table. I have also created 3 properties which basically map to the customer table fields. So for example, I have the customer code property which maps to the customer code field of the table, of the customer table. Then I have customer ID and I have the customer name mapping to the customer name and customer ID fields of the customer table. So as a first step, we have created the customer entity class. Now let's go and see basically how the UI looks like and how this class can be used to create the necessary insert, update and delete actions. So here's our simple customer screen, and using this customer screen we will be doing insert, update, delete and search on the customer table. So you can see that all of these CRUD operations are contained in these 4 buttons given below. So let's first start with insertion of new records using LINQ to SQL. So let's see the behind code of the add button. Now basically there are 4 steps in order to insert new record using LINQ to SQL. The first step is we create a data context object. Second step, we create the customer entity object or the LINQ entity object and pass on the values from the UI to the object properties. We call up the on submit command. At this moment we are doing an insert, so we are calling up insert on submit command to do a in memory commit to the LINQ objects. And finally we call the submit changes method to make a physical commit. So we create a data context object, create new fresh object, pass in the values from the UI to the object properties, do in memory commits using insert on submit, and finally we do a physical commit using submit changes. The same I have repeated for delete and the same I have repeated for update. So for delete, again I have created the data context object, I have fired my var query or fired my LINQ query. I fired my LINQ query using customer ID predicate, and I have extracted the customer entity object which I want to delete. Then I have called up the delete on submit method to do in memory delete, and finally I have called up the submit changes method to commit the physical delete in the actual tables. And the same thing holds true for update. So that's the explanation of the code. Now let's see that how this project actually runs. So let's see how the project basically works like. So you can see that currently there are 2 records. So let's go to our project and run it in a debug mode. So yes, I want to debug while I run the project or while I execute the project. Now let's do insert first. So let me add quest and quest, and let's go into the debug mode and let's start debugging step by step, because I want to show you the in-memory and the physical commit. So the data has been passed from the UI to the customer object, and he has done an insert on submit. Now what we'll do is we'll just stop here. Now what has happened is basically we have executed insert on submit, but as I've said previously that insert on submit does not make a physical commit to the database. It just makes a logical commit to the database, to the LINQ objects. I'm sorry, it doesn't make a physical commit to the database. It just makes a logical insert, update, delete, or CRUD operations on the objects, but not on the actual physical database. Now let's go to a database and see if really this data has been inserted. So let me go and just refire the query, and you can see that there are no new records which has been inserted in the table. Right, now let's go and just run basically the submit changes method. So let me go and just move the debugger ahead. Now let's go and query. You will see that the new record has been added to your table. So in other words, till this step, there were no physical commits. It was only logical commit. Right, so in this way you can also do update and delete. I will not be demonstrating update and delete currently. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and in the coming up video we are going to see more LINQ to SQL CRUD operations, but they will be more with using stored procedures and more with more with keeping performance in mind. So I hope you have enjoyed these videos. Any issues, any doubts, please feel free to mail at questpoint@questpoint.com. In case you think that some more videos need to be added, please do mail us. We will definitely try to improve on the same. You can get the source code from questpointvideo.com. In case you have bought the DVD, you can get the source code from the source code folder. So the source code of CRUD operation, you should get it from questpointvideo.com. While you're viewing the video, at the right hand side you can see that there is a link which says download the source code. So for every video the source code is attached at the right hand side corner, and in case you don't find the source code, please do email us. So I hope this video was useful, and see you up in the coming up sessions.